Hey, Aaron, how you doing?
I am great, Donna. How are you?
Terrific. I'm so glad that I met you at NAMM this year in Anaheim. I had heard about Marka Reeds, and unfortunately for me, because I got so busy, I stopped by your booth way too late. You were out of the samples I needed, but you were so nice to send me samples in the mail of the 2.5 Marka Jazz Reeds. And I got to tell you, folks, I did a product review on YouTube, so definitely check it out. But these reads are really awesome. So I wanted to talk to you today about a whole bunch of things with regard to Marka Reeds.
Yeah, sure. It's a great story. It's a great company. You weren't alone. The reason I didn't have any samples for you is they were gone. Word of mouth spread like fire across NAM, and there was all kinds of players, all kinds of sax players coming and, hey, can I try these reeds? Can I try these reeds? We even had one young gentleman who was about to go on tour. He tried them, came back the next day and says, hey, can I become an endorsing artist? So they're a really good quality read, and people are really loving them, and the name's really starting to get out.
Definitely. So you know what? Let's talk about the story about Marka. Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. So Marca stands for, it's a French company, so it's a French name, but it stands for Manufacture d'Anche et Roseaux de la Côte d'Azur. So basically in English, that means manufacture of cane and reeds from the French Riviera. That's what it's just an acronym. So it was started in 1957. They've been making reeds for 60 years, just over. They basically started by making cane reeds for a lot of other companies. They didn't really focus on their brand. But in recent years, the grandfather sold the company to the current owner, Nicholas. I think you met him at NAMM.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Nicholas and his cousin bought the company, and they've really started to focus on creating the brand of Marka. So a lot of players have probably played a Marka reed without even knowing it's a Marka reed, because they've been doing OEM manufacturing for other companies. But now the focus is growing the Marka brand.
Is one of those companies Regatti?
No, no.
Okay.
There's some companies we can't really tell
Oh,
you who we
sure.
make for, but one of them, for example, is Alexander. So people might be familiar with Alexander reeds,
Yeah.
and so they have a special cut that Marka does for them and manufactures for them.
Oh, how interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
so then how does now tell us a little bit about you and how you got on board with Marka.
So my father started a company and was approached by Marka to create brand awareness. So my dad grew a synthetic reed company in over 8 years that he worked for them. He grew their business by 1,400%
Wow.
worldwide. And so his name in the industry was pretty good, obviously. And so he was approached by Marka to we're working as consultants to create brand awareness throughout North America. So helping them get distribution in the US, bringing more retailers online to basically fulfill the demand that's starting to happen, because as you said, the word is getting out there about the quality and playability of the reeds.
Okay, now let me ask you something because we had spoken beforehand. You had said to me you're not a saxophone player. Do you have any kind of musical background?
Yeah, so I'm a singer. My claim to fame is when I was 27 years old, quite a while ago. I auditioned for Canadian Idol,
Oh, wow.
and out of 13,000 people who tried out, I made it into the top around 120. So
Terrific.
I've been a singer all my life, tenor in jazz choirs, jazz ensembles. I ran my own barbershop quartet for a while, did a bunch of volunteer work. So I love music. So the fact that I get to do anything in the music industry is fantastic for me.
Absolutely. And you know, the great thing about NAM too, and what I want the listeners to also realize as well, you know, there's many facets to being a musician nowadays. You know, it's not just performing. It's also being involved in the industry side of things, whether it's working for a reed company, if it's doing advertising or marketing for a reed company, or any type of company. That's part of the industry. And I think that's, the trend that's happening nowadays. The music industry is really, really building and growing, as we saw at NAMM. NAMM seemed to have a lot more exhibits, I felt, this year than in previous years.
Yeah, and certainly what you say is so true. There's so many people, good friends in the industry who might work for a large retail company. I know one, he's the head buyer for band and orchestra for a large company up here in Canada. He's a classically trained clarinet player with a university degree in clarinet. And so he uses his love of music and his knowledge of music and has a career as a purchaser for a large retail chain and gets to be around music all the time.
I'm going to go off topic for a second because you're reminding me of a session I attended at NAMM, but I wanted to ask you too, since you are in the music industry, and some of our listeners are also, are also maybe wanting to get in the music industry. Any advice for them on how to pursue that?
Yeah, there's all kinds of, I mean, if you look in the back of music trades, so there may be people out there who have business experience, but also a love of music. Certainly, I would, in magazines such as Music Trades or other music magazines that really focus on the industry itself, there's always opportunities for sales staff, and where someone can couple their business acumen with their love of music. And like you said, there's so many companies out there that they need a lot of help. And so there is seem to me to be a lot of people looking for quality, either salespeople, support staff for these companies. So if you have a love of music, I don't think you can be in this industry without passion for music, or you should, or I should say you shouldn't be in this industry without a love of music.
That's so true. And so then let me ask you this. So you have a singing background, and your dad, was approached because of his marketing ability. Do you also have a business degree as well?
No, I don't have a business degree behind me, but just lots of experience, many years selling all kinds of products with different companies. And I'm a fifth generation salesperson. So every member of my family, my grandfather, he's in his mid 80s. He still works in sales part-time at Home Depot selling tools. So
Wow.
he just, it's in the blood.
Yeah, and you know what that's called? That's called real world experience, because you really
Yeah.
don't necessarily need a degree. You just need to have the experience.
Yeah. That's it. That's it for sure.
Great. So now let's get into market itself. So can you talk a little bit about the reed making process?
Yeah, sure. So basically the reeds are harvested um, in, as we said, the south of France. So it's from the Var region of France. Uh, the reason we like to highlight that is because the Var region is one of the most well-known areas for the raw cane. So Marca has a family plot. They've been processing cane or working with cane for 5 generations. So all the cane they use is basically, it's all wild cane. So it's not farmed. And that makes a big distinction. So the quality of the cane when it starts is really beneficial. So basically they harvest the tubes of cane, they let it sit basically for a period of time. Once that's sat, then they start processing it, and they cut it, and then they table it and start really making the different parts of the reeds and start manufacturing them.
Now, let me ask you, if you don't mind my interrupting for a second. I know there's been times, in history where there's been shortage of cane. How has that affected market, if you're aware of that?
Yeah, so it basically depends. So for the saxophone and clarinet with their cane, right now they're using actually, they even say in their catalog, around 200,000 tubes of cane a year. So they have their family plot. It's the way they do it. They always basically are making it so that year after year they can get the cane they need. The only time a real shortage happens is when, for example, in the process of making double reeds, you might need a specific diameter. So for instance, right now there's, I think when I talked to Nicholas, there's like a 6-month wait for 10.5 millimeter cane. So that's the diameter of the tube that the manufacturers, because a lot of people make their own double reeds. So they'll be purchasing that specific diameter. So sometimes when we get into specifics like that, there can be a shortage. But as far as any of your listeners wanting to get a box of reeds, then they'll definitely be able to do that. And in the foreseeable future, there shouldn't be a shortage.
Terrific. So then let me ask you, and like I mentioned in the very beginning, I did a product review for Marker Reeds, because I was really, really happy with the results. How do your reeds stand out compared to all the other reed makers? Because there's other reed makers in the same area of France.
Yeah, no, for sure. So basically what we do differently is in the manufacturing process, Donna, it is a small company. So basically, it's the process. So there's only a few machines and there's only a couple people making it. So with some of the larger manufacturers, you might have 20, 30 machines, 5 or 6 different people making all the reeds. And so the tolerances are difficult to maintain, right? Because a person will go from machine to machine to machine to machine and keep coming around and around. And yes, they're within tolerance, but there's that difference. And so because of the way we process in smaller batches with more, I don't want to say quality control because I don't want to put down any other manufacturers because they have their own quality control, but just with our manufacturing process, our reviews are quite often, hey, I got a box of reeds to review and 85% playability out of the box, right? So that's what our goal is. We strive to get 85% playability, and the other ones in the box that aren't playable right out of the box don't need a lot of work. That's what we strive for.
And it was interesting when we spoke and you had the 3 strength, and I normally use 2.5, and you were nice enough to send me samples of the 2.5. Every reed I pulled out worked, and I know every saxophone player and every woodwind player, that's like a dream come true. And I even said that on the product review. I said, and I and you even clarified this too. In one of your comments on the YouTube video, I said, I don't know if they sent me, samples because I said I'm going to do a review, whatever. And you said, no, you have that much confidence that you just pulled out a reed. You pulled out a couple of reeds. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So basically I have a box of samples that I've been furnished from the company. And you said, hey, can I try some Marca Jazz 2.5? And so I went to the bag. That was Marca Jazz 2.5, just reached my hand in, grabbed a bunch and shipped them off to you. And we don't hand pick anything. Again, it comes back to the quality, really of the initial reed or the cane, that tube cane, that white wild cane, makes a huge difference. People even said at NAMM, they really didn't even mind the taste of it. It was good tasting reed, which is, I'm sure important.
Let me ask you this question then, because I've never heard of you hear of wild salmon versus farm raised salmon, but I've never heard of wild cane versus farm raised cane.
Yeah, so it's just basically what it boils down to is the wild cane will have just the way it grows. The process of having the wild cane. Basically, when you get the cane, there's if you were to look at it under a microscope, there's the tubes that run along the cane. And in just a wild cane, it's more stable. That wild cane, it just is a stronger, it creates just a more stable like layer, the way the tubes align, just it's not forced to be anything other than what it is. It's just wild cane. So it just is a higher quality to start with.
Does that affect, okay, so I can see that definitely affecting playability. Does that
Yes.
also affect how long the read will last?
Um, no, we don't. Again, every player
It's
is so
different.
different.
Yeah.
It's so hard. Every player tries something, and just the way they put the reed in their mouth or what they're doing with their mouth, it all depends. So we can't really comment on if that makes it last longer, but it does affect the playability for sure.
And that's the main thing that makes you guys stand out. It's really the playability, pull it out of the box. It just plays or it just needs a little bit of adjustment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. The other thing that really stands out too, and maybe I can just comment on our student line of reeds. Our student lines, just so everybody's made aware, is made with the exact same quality reed or cane that all of our other reeds are. It's just Marca has decided to lower their margins so that they make a high quality student read, but at a really reasonable price so that the students can get a great start to their playing career.
What's the and this is going to lead right to the next question. So what are the names of the, I don't want to call them brands, but the styles of reeds?
Yeah, sure. No problem at all. So basically what we have is um, we have a comparison chart. I don't know if you want to share a screen or if you want to see them. But anyway, I'll just tell you. So we have basically our student line, which is called our Primo.
Okay.
And so the Primo line, that's going to compare to your Royal, your Rico, your Juno. And then we have our Superior. So the Superior reed is going to be basically the traditional, the blue box,
Got it.
or
Okay.
your reserves, or your Selmer reeds, those ones.
Okay.
Um, then we have our premium line. So the Marca Premium, that's comparable to the V12 or the V21.
Okay.
And then we have our Excel, which is similar to a V16.
Huh. Okay. And you're talking about in terms of the strength.
Yeah, or just even just in comparison to brand. So, for example, the Excel has a thinner blank, or it has than, let's say, our traditional,
Okay.
but it'll have a bit thicker tip.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
more for like a lot of pop players. They might use a V16. So if they were looking to try Marca, then they might want to try the Excel.
Got
Or
it.
if they're more in an orchestra setting, they might want to try the Premium. Then we also have our jazz line too.
Okay.
So
Right. So the jazz and that, how would that compare to which other reeds?
so they'd be comparable to D'Addario Select Jazz or Double Z from Van Doren.
Got it.
Uh,
Okay.
that's the jazz. We also have an what's called our American Vintage brand. So the jazz ones I sent you were what's considered a file reed.
Yes.
And so our American Vintage is an unfiled reed. And so they would compare more to the Java Reds or the Java Greens.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
actually the Java greens because the greens are unfiled.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. So that is okay. So then my other question, and this is going to lead into, well, actually, I'll get to that question in a minute. And so this is in terms of like, like maybe the tip thickness or just the feel, or in terms
Yeah.
of comparing the reeds. In terms of strength, are all the reeds on your line from Marca, do they all follow the same strength? Like, so is a 2.5 premium the same strength as a 2.5 jazz?
Um, it's going to be close. So we really do kind of follow brand to brand. So, so a Superior 2.5 will be close to a Van Doren Blue Box 2.5.
Got it. Okay, so in terms of the strength also.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. So it's
Yeah.
strength and also I'll say characteristics.
Yes. Yes.
Got it. Okay. That's really helpful. That's incredibly helpful. So then now let me ask you the most obvious question. Where can we buy Marker Reeds?
Okay, so currently in the United States, we have one distributor. They're American. They're called American Way Marketing. So really, if someone wanted to go and get a box, they would just have to go to a local retailer and say, because they deal with so many brands and they deal with retailers all across the continental U.S. They'd be able to just go to their local music shop and say, "Hey, I'd love to try Marker Reeds. This is what I play. This is what I would like to try. Can you contact American Way?" And I'm sure they'd be happy to help you out. But part of my job is also making it easier for you to get Marker Reeds. So we're currently working on some other areas of distribution so that it'll begin to become much, much easier to get these awesome reads.
Terrific. And are they available on Amazon?
They are available on Amazon. They're also available on the East Coast out of a store called Weiner Music.
Oh yeah, no, I actually Wiener Music. Yep, that's on Long Island,
Wiener Music.
folks, in
Yep.
Mineola, and also now actually it's interesting because it's called Pop. If for those of you that live in Long Island, it's called Papa's Music, and it's on Jericho Turnpike. And I know this because I used to be a frequent flyer there. Great store. Now Wiener Music it's online, so it's wienermusic, I think .com or something, or look up Fred Wiener Music. So that would mean that's their online store. So then that would be another place to get them online, I would think.
Yeah. And they've actually been a long supporter of Marker Reeds for an extremely long time.
That's actually great to know because, folks, that's a great resource. By the way, I recommend Wiener Music all the time because they have so many brands, not just reeds, but instruments, mouthpieces, music. It's a really great shop, and they really established a good online presence early on. So I'm really glad. That's great. I'm happy for you with that.
Yeah, thanks. And so again, we're going to be making. We're actually going to be attending. There's an American Single Reed Summit coming up. We're going to be attending. We strive to make it to as many of the Music Educators Association's shows as well. So we're going to be at, for example, Florida Music Educators, Ohio Music Educators. I was actually there in the spring or in February. Texas Music Educators. So as we go around, we're at NAMM. So as we continue to grow the brand, we're going to be working with music educators to also get them involved as well. So people will be able to stop by the booth and get some samples, just like you
Terrific.
did.
Yes, absolutely. So now let me ask you before we go, how can people, let's say someone has a question, they're new to Marker Reeds, they've been kind of frustrated or whatever.
Yep.
Can they contact you and get advice as to, even though you gave us great advice already, but can they contact you already? Maybe they play synthetic reeds and they want to
Yep.
go back to cane. So is there a
Yep.
way for them to contact you and get advice about that?
Sure. The best way to contact me, you can send me an email. It's just Aaron, my name, AARON, at lv.ca.
Got it.
And they can send me an email and let me know what they currently play, and then I can tell them, make some recommendations, and definitely help them out.
That's really nice of you to give us the email. Very much appreciated. I'm sure that the listeners will definitely appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
Listen, Aaron, I wanted to thank you so much for your time today. This has been really informative, and I think that it sheds light on how Marca stands out from a lot of the other reads, and also just the strength comparisons too. I think that's going to help a lot of people out, those people that may not have tried you out yet and want to definitely try your reads and do a comparison.
Yeah, and that's what we tell people all the time. Just however you can, however I can help, I will try to get people just to be able to try the reads, because once they try them, they absolutely love them. I know, for example, one of our endorsing artists, his name's Darren Ron,
Oh
and
yeah.
he's out of Colorado. And when he was 18 years old, I'll just tell you the story quick. He was going to university for music, and he basically went to a music store and bought every brand of reed he could get his hands on, happened upon a box of Marca, fell in love, and ever since he was young, he's played Marker Reeds. He's never changed ever since he was a teenager. So it's yeah, he loves them, and that's really what we find. People who try them love them. So that's what I tell everybody. Try the Reeds.
Awesome. And I know he's a great player. I hear him on the radio all the time. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thanks so much, Aaron, for your time. Much appreciated.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Donna. You take care.
You too.